Ruler School is brought to you by Odyssey Games, where you can go to pre-order upcoming Force of Will sets, ccgprime.com for singles and supplies, cardodoko.com for those rulers in the international market looking for product, as well as our guest lecturer members Vite Ramen and Full Grammar Alchemist. Class is in session. Hey there, rulers. Welcome back after a long week of Force of Will to your favorite ever live Force of Will podcast. It's Office Hours featuring myself, DMO73, and I'm joined, as always, by Paul Reisman. You are really bright. And Mike Rance. We weren't going to say anything, but you said it yourself, so it's okay. Oh, you can't hear them? Why not? I have my audio set to be there. Hold on. Hold on. Try now. Hold on. I'm changing my sound here really quick. XSplit is glitching out. Try now. Talk to me for. Nope.
Speak.
There it is. Now it's back,
Speak.
but XSplit is going to glitch out for a second.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. Hello. Welcome back. Now we have Paul Reisman.
Now.
Still maybe a little too bright. Let me turn myself down.
And Mike Rance. Now you're not talking on purpose.
Joke's on you. I could be speaking the whole time.
You could have been talking the whole time. Okay, so that's
a lot better.
That is a lot better. So we're here. We're going to refresh a few things. Hopefully you guys can hear us now. Should be. Looks like it's showing up fine for me. XSplit decided XSplit decided it wanted to be weird. Let me know in the chat if it's wonky or anything. Just wait till he disconnects. So this is our last time that we're going to be talking together until after. It'll be 3 weeks from now when we come back together, because obviously I'm not going to podcast the right after Worlds. I suppose Paul could host a podcast while I'm in Japan.
I don't know how I would do that, but I'd be willing to try and figure it out.
Paul could try. Paul and I can workshop it on Wednesday. We can be like, let's tell Paul how to host the podcast. We're not meeting next week because I'm getting ready to go to Japan for Worlds. But we are actually going to spend tonight to talk about Worlds in its many forms and fashions. Kind of want to talk about our predictions of the meta, our wish lists for what we might see out of the top results, and also just talking about how Worlds this year is so different than previous years' Worlds. So let's start. So we'll bring Mike in kind of in the back half of that conversation, fully understand. And I'll also preface this with, I do this thing every year. I try my best. I've really worked hard on it this year to fully distance myself as much as possible from any of the testing, like the actual full detailed testing. I specifically tell people give me vibes, but don't give me cards and don't give me information. I want to be shocked by what I'm seeing. I want to try to be in the same spot of because the excitement of casting, I think, comes from having a sense of what we might see, but still being open to being blown away and being wrong, right? I think there's some fun of that. And Mike, Paul can attest, last Wednesday at Locals was certainly an adventure in me in that space.
He failed miserably.
I had a mental breakdown a little bit of how deep I went. What's the new term? What's the new term? Crash out? Is that the new the lingo?
Sure. I feel like crash out's been a part of our lexicon for a very long time. Spell lexicon if you can in the chat. Um, but yeah, I think it's something like that. It was like, oh gosh, like Tyler would like mention a play line he like people have figured out, and Jeremy would be like, "How would I do that? How would I do that? Okay, hold on, I can do these cards together.
I don't even think
maybe that'll
I'll give Tyler the benefit. I'll give Tyler some credit there. Tyler wouldn't even necessarily give me a play line. Tyler would give me a concept of how a game wins, and I would be like, "How would I do that? What cards would I use to do
how would
that?"
I do that? Well, the soonest we can do that much. Well, that only amounts to this. So how could we? I don't know.
I was in the tank.
I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I don't
Yeah,
care.
and then like 15
But
seconds
if I
later.
could do this,
So what I've
to no one's surprise.
what I've walked away with essentially from my personal testing, from my experience, from rereading all the cards, and from the vibes, I guess, that I'm hearing, is it feels like there is, as expected, a little bit from a rotationary format, and Mike, you can kind of speak to this too. There is kinds of an element of like, in a rotating format, there is a natural gravitation towards the new stuff first. Right? I think that's the case of any rotating game. I don't think that's like, I think that's just a natural play line of the rotationary system. And I don't think that's necessarily like bad because it's a rotating format, because Paradox is that. So, I think there's an acknowledgement there. I do think that we have a very high likelihood of seeing kind of 3 tempos, right? Like 3 tempos of deck. Like I think we're going to see, I think there are presences of very aggressive, very much more mid-range, and very back-end grindy decks in the formats. And I do think that, there's a blend of rune decks versus non-rune decks. I do want to say, though, I think the thing that's been interesting to me, so Paul, you bring up an interesting point here in the chat. Starts with 5 cards plus 5 or 6 runes. Yeah. But also, the big question to me is actually the rune deck really doing much? Because the question that I have is, we've seen a trend in some of the GPs, but like, outside of Valgod and Matilda, is there a vibe where it's just better to play Pactless in the environment we have now? So then it's really just like start with 1 card so that you always know you'll have that 1 card. And so that's the question I have about the environment. I'm curious your thoughts, Paul.
Well, we've certainly I played a couple games against Tyler just using one of your decks where he probably threw Diabolos's Pact like back in your deck box. And was just playing Nero without Diabolos's Pact, and it seemed to be consistently functioning pretty well. I mean, like it didn't seem like overtuned, and
right.
I believe that deck was Paradox legal. And I was playing a Wander deck, so
yeah.
So it was not seeming too bad. It does make me wonder, like, what the packs are facilitating in the environment.
Right.
If it's like we're giving you runes and we're giving you stuff at the start of the game. I think the real question comes into, if you're going packless, are the runes then just kind of not powerful enough to facilitate a need for them?
Or the question is, or it's just like, are you accepting that you want the color flexibility in exchange for really just having 1 card that you're starting the game with, essentially, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the thing to me, right? It's this weird
plus whatever you reveal outside the game, right?
It's this weird triangle to me where it's like non-rune decks are supposedly so much worse than rune decks because rune decks start with all 5 cards, these extra cards. But if pactless rune decks are technically better than the pacted rune decks, then they only have 1 card. So then the real differentiation between a rune deck without a pact and a regular ruler is 1 card. So then if you can kind of get the vibe of what one card those decks are going to be using, can you not mitigate that one card advantage with a non-rune deck? Like, that's the question to me of like the triangle, right? Of like, where does that fit? And so that's the thing I'm really curious to see in Worlds, is seeing if people try that, if we see a more pacted versus pactless, if we see, and obviously Matilda and Valgot, they don't have pacts to use, right? But if we see Matilda versus Matilda and Valgot as pure rune decks, if we see pacted rune decks, if we see unpacted rune decks, if we see non-rune decks at all, like, the analytical side of my brain, the like 10,000 foot view, is like, that environment feels like there's a lot of potential there for a lot of different things. But I might be, prefaced with 100% wrong in that and ready to be proven wrong. So I'm curious to see what I'll see at Worlds.
Yeah. People are mentioning it in the chat. Demon's Blood is probably the main draw that people are like, that's one of the main runes people are thinking about
For Divinity 1. For Divinity 1.
Yeah. I've not played this card. You've had most of that stuff on lockdown during our like filming and everything like that. I have not tested with Demon's Blood or anything like that. I know that people believe it is absolutely correct, and I can see why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it also, like, that comes back to that question I had before about, like, if that's what everyone's going to be using as their, like, one free card, then you can, like, deck build to adjust to that, right? Like,
yeah, you can plan for it.
Like, you can plan for it. Like, resonators that have a higher defense stat than 600 so that they can't be killed. Resonators with Eternal. Things that have Untouchable so that you then follow up with them doing Divinity. They do the Demon's Blood mine and produce the extra mana, but then you're like, okay, well, the thing I'm going to cast is Untouchable, so that extra mana doesn't help you anyway. Things like one-hit KO Anesthesia. Like, because Demon's Blood doesn't actually pump up your defense, it just pumps up your attack. It's like, it's stuff like that, where it's like, if we know the question, we've had this conversation so many times, not even just about this meta. It's the question of, like, is it a problem that you can solve, or is it sometimes just easier to be the problem? And I don't know. In my mind, it feels like a problem that's solvable necessarily, but some people might just decide that they want to be the problem instead, which is a fair approach to a tournament. Mike, what do you think about that in the idea of, like, be the problem versus try to solve the problem, if the problem is kind of so known and potentially pretty solvable? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what is it better to try to be the one to solve it, or is it better to just be the problem?
Typically, I think being the problem makes most of the difference when it comes to these, especially like going into Worlds. You want to think about a few things. Obviously, you want to think about time and round. You want to think about what your deck's main focus is going to be. And like, I remember obviously going to the only thing I can speak from experience was going to Worlds in 2023 after not playing competitively for like 2 years at that point. So I was completely out of the meta. But I picked a deck that I thought sounded good on paper, that I had like maybe 2 or 3 reps in with just to understand it, and then regretting not playing something more aggressive or something more proactive, in the fact that, like, if you're proactive going into Worlds and you're playing a deck that people are aware of, that is like, I don't know, I'll call it like the strongest aggressive, the strongest tempo deck that's known in the meta. If you're playing that better than most people that are playing the same deck, or better than people that are playing slower, grindier control decks, you will eke out more wins than anyone else in the same boat. Your margins of error are much wider than like a control player's will be.
Sure. Very fair. That's a very fair critique.
Mike, would you be playing, like, just kind of shotgunning this, right? Are you the kind of player who enjoys, like, having that extra card that everyone knows about, but you like having the flexibility in your deck building? Or are you somebody who likes having a bunch of runes? Because you've topped with Lich in the past, right?
Yeah, but the only reason that the runes made sense to me was because I used runes that were specifically made for me to start with an extra card in my hand. Like, 3 out of my 5 runes did not matter when I was playing rune decks. I'll be completely honest. The only reason that I played what I did in 2020 when I got my Invect Worlds was the only reason I picked Lich was because you had access to Tears of the Fallen, which put you +1 card advantage over your opponent, who's likely either also playing a rune deck, or in the case you play against a Stranger Ruler, which was popular at the time, you're ahead on tempo with that. Not ahead on tempo, but ahead on card advantage from that. And then you also play Explore the Unknown, ahead on card advantage with that, and also on turn 0, quote unquote turn 0, you have 2 runes flipped up for your Kaguya,
Right.
which was the entire reason that I even think I eked out what I did in the tournament, because you're starting with more cards, you have less flexibility because you're pretty much doing the same game plan over and over again,
Yeah.
but it's consistent and it just puts you ahead. And who cares if your opponent knows about it?
Right, for sure. Which is like that's what I say. I want to come back about the triangle. Is like I don't necessarily know which of those 3 points of the triangle is actually the correct one for the sake of Worlds, and I'm not surprised that 2 of the 3 points of the triangle, given that Paradox is a rotationary format, that 2 of the 3 points are the new rulers, right? Like that, like. I get it. I played New Frontiers. I know how that goes, right? I think it's a little bit. There's an element of it being a little bit different because like the makeup of the rest of the decks is still like showing itself to be like a pretty cool mix of cards from the 3 clusters, which I think is great. I think that's really nice, and also there's an element of like I can shrug off that the rotationary format is more heavy-handed towards the newer stuff because we also have Wanderer, and Wanderer is not that, like very much not that. You can kind of play kind of whatever you want, even in Wanderer. You know, so it's very curious to me, and that's why I'm curious to see like where it's this element of like we've had this conversation on the podcast before too, so it's kind of interesting that we're back to it. It's like where is the correct point to stop in the steps ahead of your opponent's meta call, right? Because it's like, do you go 1 step ahead? Do you go 2 steps ahead to beat the decks going 1 step ahead? Do you loop all the way back around to the first thing because everyone's going to be going 2 steps ahead, so it's better to actually be at the start? Like that that little wheel is always so interesting to me. And it does feel like in my testing and discussions and kind of, again, the vibes that Worlds is shaping up to have a similar kind of potential to it, which does make it really interesting. Like it'll be cool to see kind of what comes out on top. Yo-Yo, to your point about playing 12 to 13 stones, I will say in my playtesting against Demon's Blood decks, the stone part has never mattered. Like losing 3 stones, just being essentially like, oh, I'm going to be at 7 stones this game. I don't know. Like maybe I'm missing something, but it's like most of my Force of Will games typically ended at 7 stones anyway. So like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm a Fox player, so it really sucks when they have ice shards and then mill 3 of my 3 of my killing stones. But sometimes they don't have ice shards, and then they mill 3 of my killing stones, and I go, oh, here's the Valraven. Thank you for the ramp. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't necessarily know if I need to. I don't think adjusting of stone bases is where I would see the need to respect Demon's Blood. I think in terms of like 7 defense resonators, things like Therapist, Vacus, untouchable guys that can get big, really, that can have big defenses and don't get burned out by 600 damage. Things like Eternal Resonators, like Robometa or Dorian, things that can get Eternal so they don't care as much about Demon's Blood, is more where I would want to respect that card. But, maybe I'm, again, full transparency, I might be missing something. Maybe the stone hate decks are a lot more prominent than I thought, and so losing those 3 stones is just going to result in me losing even more stones. Fair. Like, maybe that's a thing. CCG Rhyme, will Wardens have a big impact? 2 of them, potentially. Probably only 1, and probably maybe not even that. I think Python is probably... Python and Diabolos, I think, are the Wardens that might see some play and spice. I do not think that Baroost, Belphegor, or Hutriel have a space. Maybe pre-ATD they did. Post-ATD, I do not think they are there yet.
So let me question that. So in the Matilda deck that is playing like good white cards dot deck,
Sure.
right? That wouldn't run Hootriel because it's not running any of the
I mean,
the Regalia,
it might,
or
right? It might, like, I guess, I mean, when I say have a big impact, I think of like being, I see that as being like widespread played.
oh sure,
That's the
sure.
like the vibe that I'm going for, and I think like
pivotal in the metagame
yeah,
for Worlds.
like
Sure.
like prolific, like seeing everywhere in their own decks. Every warden has to be used for the most part, right? Matilda's gonna want to she's gonna want to use Lionel and Matilda. I don't think Valgot really needs more than one copy of Morgana, to be perfectly honest, and even then you might not need it at all. But like of the like, oh, we will see these rulers splashed in more than just their deck. I think it's purely Python and Diabolos that have that space. But I'm not even necessarily sure that they're needed. Python, I think, has some flexibilities to her that Diabolos doesn't. But that's my space.
100%. Yeah, Python is pretty definitively the best warden at this stage.
I'd agree.
I would say. The Diabolos Warden is a byproduct of you playing the Pact, which can allow you to draw 2 cards, right?
Yeah.
So the Pact, in my opinion, is better than the Warden. Although the Warden does have certain utility aspects to them. So that's still 3 cost for a Warden. Like, that's kind of disqualifying in my opinion.
Yeah, Yo-Yo, to your point of,
Really
well, it depends on if they're going for the Stone Mill. If it's just a one-time Stone Mill, it doesn't matter. Yeah, Demon's Blood's Stone Mill outside of the Stone Mill deck doesn't matter. Like, it's just like, okay, I'm going to lose 3 of my stones, whatever. If they're playing the, like, Stone Hate deck, then clearly the 3 stones could be rough, right? That's a fair critique.
Yeah.
It's that meta call of, like, do we think that the Stone Hate deck is going to be prominent? I honestly don't know. Like, I literally am like, okay, cool. You could play Hyper Aggro, you could play Stone Mill, you could play Symphony Stun, you could play Valgot Life Loss stuff, you could play Matilda White Goons, like a whole bunch of different choices. You could play Leica, you could play like all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So that to me is curious how we're going to see played, which is why I'm excited about it. I think Worlds I think has some pretty cool concepts. Now I do want to shift. Really, if we're going to say play and not forced to play, it's going to be Python. She's really good at blunting the go wide decks. Yeah, I agree. I think Python is hands down the best one. Like, she is hands down the best, like, generic one to do. And the artist for Python's going to be there, so I'm going to get my Uber Python signed. Wish I had more Uber Pythons, because I'd get all 3 of them signed if I could. But I don't. So, 1 for me. Quick, someone mail me 2 Uber Pythons. You have a week. So, yeah. Now, I do want to shift from speculation about what's going to be successful, and I do want to shift to Merry Christmas Land, which is what we would like to see top. And again, I'm not gonna go into very specific rulers, but this is actually what I'm hoping to see. I would like the top 8 to be 5 different rulers minimum, with at least 1 non-rune ruler in the top 8. That's like my magical Christmas land that I would love to see. And I would also love to see 4 or more countries represented in the top 8.
So diversity.
The boisterous part of me is I want Team USA to top 8 sweep. I want all 8 places to be Team USA. But my global, like, representative kind of brain is like 4 different countries at least represented in the top 8 is always nice. And so that's where I'm at. So yeah, I'd love to see 5 different rulers represented. No one ruler more than twice. I think that's fair. Or sorry, no. Let me rephrase that. No same deck represented more than twice, and at least one. Like, you could have a Nero Pactless and a Nero Diabolos, and like I wouldn't count them as being like the same deck, but I would hate to see like 4 Nero Diabolos lists, right? Like that's a different kind of concept. So no more than 2 of the same deck idea, and then at least 1 non-rune ruler in the top 8. Like for me, if that's what the world's top 8 happens to be, I walk away a happy man. I'm like, yep, that's great. That's awesome to me. It shows diversity. It shows players trying to experiment. Shows that we had a cool meta game and that breakdowns mattered. And like, that's a cool walk away for me.
Yeah, which to that point, I think that's what the company is trying to create for Worlds, which is why they offered like a right before Worlds, like really like Worlds testing really got into gear season.
Right.
They decided to shift the ban list a little bit. So I share that. I would like to see some of Masterpiece 2 get some highlights before it rotates out later in the like
early
January
February,
or
yeah,
whatever, early February. That'd be good. I actually really did like this Masterpiece collection a lot.
Yeah, me too.
And I think they have tweaked their bands and their combination bands really well to make everything feel like it's on even keel.
Can I say one thing that I kind of do wish would come back into Paradox somehow? I would have loved to see Zero find a way to be able to use Light Lightning in Paradox. Just Zero. I don't know. I think that would have been cool to see if we had some way in Paradox to give Zero Light Lightning back. I don't know how you do that, because Zero's Light Lightning doesn't have reunited text on it other than the mastery, like to be able to awaken it.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. That's something I would have loved to have seen in Paradox. I apologize. I interrupted. Please continue.
No, you're good. I mean, seeing decks like Zero or Gilapis like make some sort of major wave at the tournament would be nice, because notably they have been significantly nerfed in the Paradox format.
Yeah.
Some notable tools have been taken away from them. I don't anticipate Zero specifically, but like things like the flute burn combo would be really interesting to see. I'm sure players have anticipated that and are like trying to get around that, but something from NP02 would be really nice.
Yeah.
But I would also really like to see Hero Cluster represented well, because I do think that there are still viable strategies in that pool of rulers. As to how those stack up against the new stuff, I don't know. I would like to think
we're in Magical Christmas. We're in Magical Christmas.
Is
land,
it
my
so
guy.
astronomical that you're like, well, Hyde can never be piloted
Well,
again? Right?
I also think that there's an element of like Hero Cluster is the cluster that's like kind of at the end of its life cycle for Paradox, but I also think that a lot of Hero Cluster is getting some love. Like some of the favorites from Hero Cluster are in many ways getting some nice love out of ATD, the Wanderer cards, like the Wanderer cards. So that's, it's not like we're abandoning them, we're just kind of shifting our perspective on them, but I hear you for sure. Robert Green says in the chat, I'm looking to hope to see each pillar of the game being in top, aggro, mid-range, control, and combo when it fits the format. I agree. I think that's great. I think if you have all of those styles of decks represented in the top 8, you have some greatness there too. Mike Rants.
Oh my God, here I am.
A man who doesn't know what ruler. No, you know a lot of things, but who doesn't know exactly what rulers are being tested or kind of what that part of the meta would be. We're taking that off the table. We're taking specific rulers off the table. You will notice that Paul only mentioned like the idea of Masterpiece 2. That's still very broad. I also was just like a non-rune ruler, very broad. In your eyes, for a rotationary format, for what this world is going to represent, what would you hope to see out of that kind of top 8 space that would show to you like, hey, we've got something here. This is pretty good. It might not be everyone's favorite, but it overall has what I'm hoping that it could be possible for. What's your magical Christmas land representation of a top cut?
3 aggro decks, 3 tempo decks, 2 control decks.
3-3-2. No
That's all I
combo?
wanna see.
No combo?
I mean, okay, listen.
Legitimate conversation. If you're combining
That-
combo in with something else, that's totally
Fast
fine.
combo decks tend to stick in more of like that mid-range tempo
Sure.
mix most of the time. Aggro decks typically don't combo. Control decks sometimes combo. It's mostly going to be like the mid-range tempo stuff.
Sure.
So, typically speaking, aggro will rise to the top because of the nature of aggro being something that is going to win games off of time rules or off of players not really fully understanding it, or like I mentioned, those tiny margins that they just kind of like poke at until something works.
Yeah.
Like they're going to rise to the top. Tempo mid-range, Foul wasn't a tempo mid-range game for a long time after playing it recently. I say recently, this is going months back.
Right.
But even so, like some of the tempo and mid-range decks like have enough potential and enough power behind them that like I can see them going there. And then the control decks are the toughest to pilot. I don't expect to see more than 2 in the top cuts,
That's very fair.
which is the magical Christmas land that I like to see.
Right. I also think there's an element of control decks that it's, again, that comes back to the problem we talked, the question we had earlier is, do you want to be the problem or try to solve the problem? Right. I think naturally control decks try to be the ones that are trying to solve the problem. And I don't think every player wants to go into a tournament, especially Worlds, with that mindset. Right. I do not think everyone wants
I know
to be
I
the
shouldn't
person.
have.
Right. So, I also agree that it will probably be there's a world where it probably just won't be the most represented. That doesn't mean it's not there, which I think I agree with you. Your breakdown of like 3-3-2, I think would be ideal as well. Like it shows that all of the strategies are viable and are there, which is cool to say. And there's some really good cards. I think if I had to put like the top 3 the top 3 ATD cards that I think are going to be like the most represented, quote unquote, or like the flavorful, powerful hits of ATD, it's pretty much probably going to be Demon's Blood, Hindered Magic Duel, and to a lesser extent, Academy Grounds. Like Academy Grounds is very, very good. It's essentially a Fates Reunited, kinda. It's just got some it's like side grade Fates Reunited in many ways. It's not always good. Against certain decks, Fates Reunited is not always good. That being said, Demon's Blood and Hindered Magic Duel are very, very good cards. Maybe to a lesser extent, if I had to take out Academy Grounds, maybe the reunion with Varkuzal, the red-black, unchaseable, make your opponent discard stuff. But that can backfire on you because we have such amazing anti-discard stuff, and the discard from Varkuzal is pure random. So you're just like, okay, like that could be bad. Oh, I gave my opponent 2 Watresses, and they got to draw 2 cards. That didn't help me, like that kind of thing. So I'll be curious to see how those play out for sure. Aggro normally wins in an unknown format, but we got some of the best that know how to stop these problems. Yeah, for sure. That's why I'm really excited. I've been working with Rio this week to get the Life Tracker program working, to get the Card Viewer app working. So those are ready. Those are done. Like we did all that groundwork ahead of time. So now Lance and I are just going to be able to really dig in and watch the games and see how things play out. So I'm really excited about that. It's going to be exciting. Very big potential. Right. And I still think it's kind of anybody can come out on top. That's the thing that's nice to me about going into this format is I do truly have a sense of we are going to have to wait and see. Right. It feels like we have the framework of what we expect the meta to be or what we can kind of expect to do well. But even within that framework, it's not solved, which is nice to see. And I might be wrong because, again, I have been trying to stay out of any of the heavy testing, and maybe the best of the best have found what it is, and they're just going to prove it to us, and we're going to have to watch it, which is fine too, right? That's how metas happen. So usually pretty exciting when we get to see that kind of stuff pop off. Instead of me having to whine all day about Lich loops and watch Mike Rance not know how to perform a lich loop on camera
What I do, buddy?
in the finals of a GP.
What I do.
God bless Gerardo for telling you how to solve that loop so that we could end the game.
It was very nice of him.
So moving on from the actual competitive event itself, I do want to talk about how this Worlds in many ways feels different. Because the Worlds of the past have typically been a party with some announcements and then the main tournament and then like some fun side event kind of stuff when we got to play ABC, like testing ABC out for people, and then a party at the end. This year feels like we are getting to experience all of what Forza Will has to offer in the span of 2 days. Because the main event is Paradox. There's a day 2 event, which is Wanderer. And while it is Swiss, the schedule doesn't show any time for Top Cut, and only first and second get unpaid invites to come back. So there is an element of like, how much are people going to stick around once they lose? And also, I'm sure people will be playing ABC format. So we get to literally experience all 3 of the World's formats, and we're probably going to be getting news and announcements and stuff. And so that's it. I don't know. This Worlds feels different in that way, because this is really kind of the first Worlds where we're getting to, it feels complete. Like we're not leaving anything out there, which is a very interesting position to be in. I'm curious, Mike, you know, you've been at Worlds where we just played the tournament. There was no side event. We just like, if you didn't do well in the tournament, you just got to yap for the rest of the time. You played in a tournament where we got to test ABC. And so then now seeing the evolution of what you know, what's expected to be at Worlds this year, what's kind of your perspective of seeing FOW Worlds evolve in that way?
It's a really good question, actually. Again, my day 2 being like just all ABC was good because it was like fresh on the mind. It was brand new at that point. I do think that there's a little bit of charm that's lost on it just because like some of ABC has been, I don't want to say solved, but some of it's been solved. Like there's almost like a ABC kind of subset of people that are playing the game right now versus people that are just kind of like playing casual matches. Because I remember at FowFest, what was it? I think you just like demolished. No, you gave me a deck. I played against somebody and they just straight out demolished me. Like
Maybe
4 turns in, and I'm like, cool, great. So there's a little bit of that. The Wanderer side event stuff is probably going to be pretty fine too, just because like the fact that it is Paradox on the main event makes it a little more novel. And again, the last time we really had something that novel was quite a few years back, I would say.
Right.
So the fact that we do have like, this is the first Worlds where like there are 3 viable formats for people to play that isn't just drafting.
Right. And that's cool.
So,
I mean, it's cool to see iSpy really like come into their own on that, right? Like,
yeah,
the evolution of Worlds becoming, like, for instance, this year my trip to Japan is arguably it's the same amount of time that I normally take, because normally I would like leave on Tuesday and come back on Monday. Now I'm leaving on Wednesday, coming back Tuesday. So it's like technically the same amount of time. I'm just doing less outside of the tournament, but I still find myself being like, yeah, but I'm just going to get to play so much more FOW in so many more different ways, and that's kind of going to be sick. I do think I packed a tripod for my phone, and I kind of am going to see if we can get a video series of Fox versus literally Worlds, where I just challenge people from different countries to a Wanderer game of Fox versus whatever they're playing for Wanderer against the different countries, and just see how Fox does, right? Like, there's so much, I don't know, there's just so much space to like fully enjoy FOW so many different ways, which is so, it is different because it has felt in the past like I'm going for Worlds, but I want to make the most of my time in Japan, so I have to do a bunch of other stuff. And now there's an element of like, no, I'm going to be spending a lot of my time at Worlds, and that's going to be sick. Like that's gonna be the rewarding piece of it, which is a shift for me. Paul, you've never been to Worlds. Someday I will bring
Nope.
you. Someday I will bring you with me. But we've played card games a lot and together in a lot of different card games and watched and witnessed the structure of how different tournaments have done games or done major events. From your perspective, like, what do you think about this idea of trying to cover so much different types of FOW over one weekend at the world stage?
I just think it's good marketing, y'all. Just we want you to experience the game for exactly what it is, and for you to say, we're gonna try really hard in Paradox, and if it doesn't work out, well, at least there's Wanderer stuff, right? And really, it's kind of a shifting from what I've heard you say in the past. It seems like this Worlds is really trying to make you celebrate around the game being played, as opposed to like just a party, and we also play card games sometimes.
Sure.
Right? So it seems like no, we're going to celebrate by playing the game in a variety of different ways.
Yeah, that's a fair comment on the shift. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's, like, honestly, the only other thing I can think of is like for next Worlds where Wanderer is the main focus, like how do we build upon that, right? Do we, not just playing the game, but like how do we invite the World's players into crafting cards? Or like does the design team like offer up like, hey, we have 5 new cards that we want the player base here at Worlds to help us design on the fly?
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah,
We never got
I
to
know
do
that's
that.
something
We never got to do that back when we played Kaijudo. We wanted to so
we
bad.
never did.
That was a
No,
really
we
cool
never
thing.
did.
I will speak. Alejandro's in the chat, so that
Yeah.
was a cool thing that Kaijudo did. Was they literally took everyone who came into Worlds and they said, "Hey, we've got these 5 cards. Here's their artwork. There's one for each color. Here's their artwork. Here's the general vibe of this card of what we're kind of thinking. But come up, just no bad ideas in a brainstorm. Design them yourself." And the company made no promises that any of the designs that the players came up with would be what ended up getting picked. But it was a cool kind of experiment to see like what the community thought about these cards. And I think one of them ended up being like, I think a couple of them ended up being like actually 1-for-1 chosen by people in the community, which I think was pretty sick. So like,
Yeah.
it's an opportunity to
There was
just
some
like,
modifications on some of them,
yeah,
but yeah, it was like pre-testing.
PPR,
So, like,
I think was
Yeah.
Psychic Predator Rusalka for people who played Kaijudo. That was a community designed card. That card was cracked in a good way. It was
Card's
fine.
very good.
It was very good.
And they were like, good, we want this to be a powerful card.
Mhm,
Here you
mhm,
go.
mhm. That's not in my hand and not my call. Too hard in your personal opinion. Let me preface this again by saying like it might not be possible. This is we're just talking dreamscape, right?
Yeah, just throwing this out there, like Kaijudo, very different game,
Very different game.
effects.
Very different game.
It did not survive long enough to get to the point where it had like 2 or even 3 effects on a card. But I don't know. It might be something where instead of promos one year, the top 3 players or top 4 players, I forget who gets the promos drawn after the top 3, like those 3 players are brought into a conference with some of the design team and just like, these are some ideas for cards that we have, which I think would be
Pretty
another
cool.
way of doing it.
That'd be
you
pretty
know?
cool. I'm excited for Worlds. I'm excited for all the content. The cube is packed. The cube is ready. I'm bringing my ABC deck. I'm bringing Fox. I'm bringing the cube. I'm bringing cards to get signed. It's gonna be a great time. I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing.
Enjoy.
Yeah, so it'll be hosted. I know that the GPs for the United States are typically hosted here on Ruler School. They will not clearly be hosted for Worlds. That will be hosted over on the Forcible TCG YouTube page, the official one. Go check it out, where Rio does all of his amazing work. with sometimes special guest Alejandro also doing amazing work. So they will be featured over there. Worlds will be starting, I think, midnight on October 30, or no, midnight on November 7th for people here in the United States. So going into November 8th, November 7th, going into November 8th, midnight will be when that stream starts, just because of the time differences. But looking forward to joining Lance Maverick for that live coverage. He and I will be doing the commentary just like we did last year, with maybe some special guest appearances from some other characters to help us join in on the commentary booth. We'll see how that goes. But it's going to be exciting. I'm excited to see what comes out of it. I'm excited to get content. And yeah, it's going to be great. A little bit of housekeeping notes for this week. Tomorrow, if you are, you can watch it now if you're a member. Otherwise, tomorrow you will get the deck profile for Pirate Ship Rush Melgus. My darling boy, Melgus. Wednesday, you will get to see Fossil Girl, Bradlua 2.0 with the amazing new stone from ATD for dinosaurs. Just a little teaser. That stone makes me so happy to play Bradlua again. I'm like, dang, this is exactly what I wanted this deck to have. That deck is so fun. And then we'll have the deck profile for Bradlua up later this week. We're gonna try to get either this week or next week is when the next all-nighter will be. We're going to be playing Crossing Point Garmheld 2.0 with his new card from ATD for the channel. So you want to check that out. And then I think that's it for us for now. Again, no podcast next week because I'll be getting ready to travel to Japan. Looking forward to seeing everybody there who's competing all over the world, as well as you guys who will hopefully be in the chat. Any last thoughts as we close out tonight?
Jeremy, I haven't had a single thought in my life.
That makes sense.
Just from me to everybody, watch out for the Nara deer. They have teeth.
It's in Osaka.
And I hear they're feral.
We're not in Osaka. We're in Tokyo.
So don't travel to Nara because there are deer and they do have teeth there. And congratulations to everybody. Enjoy Worlds, celebrate Force of Will, and I hope you enjoy those new ATD cards in foil. Those are going to be really cool to see, and just good luck to everybody, especially Team USA.
USA.
Any closing thoughts,
we need
Mike?
it right now.
USA. No, but in all seriousness, good luck to everybody going to Worlds. Pick your deck very carefully. Think about what you want to counter, what you don't want to see, and if you can close the game out before you can read any of your opponent's cards, you're playing the Mike Grant's game the correct way.
There you go.
Give it a
So
shot.
until we get back from Worlds, or until Paul Reisman decides to do a podcast without me, this has been DMO73, and I've been joined, as always, by Paul Reisman.
If I could figure it out, maybe.
And
Let us
Mike
know in the
Grants.
comments.
Class dismissed. Bye, everybody.